Started off.
Dru, since the Dayton game, how do you feel that this team has responded in practice?
I think we had to learn some lessons from the Dayton game. And I think overall, right, our practices have been going well. They've been a little bit tough because when you do go through a loss, right, you got to figure out how to change your move. I think our guys were a little bit disappointed, so just making sure that we bring the right mindset and that we're able to get over whatever happened in the past is really key. I think going into the game is the opportunity to improve what you've made your adjustments from, what you learned from your past game and games before that.
Can you talk a little bit about what some of the emphasis points have been since Tuesday? Dave said it was a pretty tough film session the next day.
It was a pretty tough film session, I guess. But honestly, I think we lost a little bit of our discipline, and we allowed the team to dictate the terms of the game. I thought Dayton in that game, they brought a level of physicality that kind of stunted our offensive movement, and then defensively we came unraveled. So just really showing guys those situations, those points to emphasize, and they quickly realized like we made some mistakes, and there are mistakes that happen, and we lived through it in film, but right now that game's in the past.
How have your guys, players and your staff, how have they dealt with just the ups and downs of this year? I mean, starting off 0-6, going on that winning streak. How have they dealt with all these ebbs and flows?
Yeah, I think it goes back to kind of what I said. You have to leave it in the past. You learn, you take a look at it, right? You go out there, and you move on to the next, right? You don't just move on without, taking those lessons. You take the lessons, but like talking about it and continuing to bring up whatever happened in the past, it's not going to do you any good. It's really about, all right, let's find a solution. And I think that's been our emphasis of, all right, here were the problems, here were the mistakes, let's find a solution. That's carried us through any struggles that we've had and allowed us to continue to improve and grow in the right direction.
Obviously, with all these new transfers, there's been, I think, a noticeable improvement on how they're just building chemistry on the court. What as a coach have you done to sort of build chemistry among guys who hadn't played together before?
I think it just takes time. There's a level of trust that goes into it. I think our players trusted each other, but also, it's a group of young men who hadn't experienced winning. So in those tight and close games, right, losing habits show up, and they have habits that that aren't learned from me necessarily, but that I've been trying to change at times. And sometimes early in the season it just spills out, right? Close games, we made mistakes, we got down on ourselves, and that typically happens when you've gone through some losing situations, right? You don't know how to get through, so we've just tried to build the principles and the habits of winners, and winners recover from mistakes, right? There's 1,000 mistakes that happen in the game. That's why they don't like the film room, whether win or loss. But there's 1,000 mistakes that happen. How do you recover from them? How do you get past them is really key, and I think that's where we made a huge jump.
You guys have shot the ball from outside much better over the past 9-10 games as opposed to the first few games of the year. What do you think goes into that? Do you think, like Matush said, he thinks just the guys getting used to each other and getting confident and taking good looks? Do you think that's what you credit that to?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that are at play. I think our early shooting woes weren't a true example of who we are and how well we can shoot the ball. I think shot selection has helped. It has been really key, and I think the ball movement has helped. And when you continue to praise and get good shots and have good possessions, guys, they start to feed off of that energy. And even when they miss, right, and we know we got a good shot, like they're not bothered by it. And I think that's key, because you're not going to make everything. You're going to miss. Can you move on and just get to the next shot? And I think we've done a great job of staying confident.
Drew, do you feel like the roster is interchangeable more so in this team than some you've seen, and are you looking for combinations of what
Yeah, I do think we have a lot of versatility on our roster. It really starts with our forwards in a lot of ways, with the Jakob Mitchell, Jay Sean Corbett, and Matusz Sharansky. Their ability to handle the ball, match up on bigger guys, it allows me as a coach and us as a staff to put them in different situations. Defensively, we can guard at different spots, so that always helps. And then they're good rebounders, because if I've always felt like you can play as big as you want to or as small as you want to, but you better be able to defend and you better be able to rebound the ball because you need the possessions. And I think we can go small at times and still control the paint and control the rebound as well as play big. So I think it's been helpful. I think it's gotten us through some injuries, some guys out at times. So, credit to our players and their skill sets of their versatility that's allowed me to make those adjustments.
Are you trying to push a little more for that and be a little more aggressive in the mix it up?
It depends on the game, on the strategy. Do I see where Jakob can take advantage of maybe a smaller matchup? Yeah, I'm going to try to exploit that. Or Jay Sean on the perimeter maybe being guarded by a player with slower feet. So, it's how I look at the game and see what advantage we can come up with.
Coach, outside maybe a couple of managers and assistants, none of you guys are familiar with former Duquesne player Jackie Johnson, but obviously he's familiar with you guys. Are you a believer in the concept of revenge game, and how do you guys are going to deal with a player that you're not familiar with, but he's obviously going to have something personal on Sunday?
Yeah, I don't know what's playing through his mind, right? Whether it's revenge, whether it's a reunion, whether he's happy to see us, whether he wants to kick our butt. Like I really don't know what his aura is right now. So I'm more focused on, our guys being prepared, and not for what's to come. It's for what is required that we need to do. I think that's more important, right? I can talk about everything Fordham does, and they do some really great things, and I know it's going to be a challenge and there's going to be a lot of difficulties, but there's certain things that I'm going to have to require of my team for us to be successful, and I think that's more important that we stay focused on what's going to be the requirements of us trying to come out of there with a win.
Seems
Fordham
like
Fordham has the smallest backcourt in the A10, but Jackie Johnson and Javette Medor are averaging 40 points combined. Just as a guard yourself, is there a difference between going up against bigger guards versus smaller guys?
Well, some people like to think that, and here's Earl Boykin shared this with me years ago. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Earl, but Earl's one of the smallest NBA players of all time, and he said, well, I'm used to playing against bigger guys and going up against bigger guys, but they're not used to going up against me. So me being a smaller guy who's played, hey, once you learn how to play the game and you figure it out, you figure it out, right? And that's why he's been successful, right? His size, it doesn't come into play anymore. He's figured it out how to move around guys that are bigger than him, how to finish, and like I said, that's why he scores the ball as well as he does. So it's going to be a challenge, right? But I'm not going to tip the hat to either. And I thought we had the smallest backcourt at one point, but for us to defend Fordham's backcourt, we're going to have to be aware and alert for 40 minutes because I just think Jackie Johnson and Medor, they don't come off the gas. And that's a tough task, right? When you're playing against two ultra-aggressive guards who can make for the whole team as well as create and find shots for themselves. So it's going to be a challenge as soon as they come across half court, every possession.
seems like there's been a lot of parity in the league this year. Is that something you expected, or have you been surprised by the A10 this year?
No, I just think I think it's college basketball. I think it's been that way for a long time. There's so many players, right? we try to pinpoint the best ones, and then you look up years from now and it's like, man, well, where did that guy come from, and how did he improve his game? And wow, he's good now. How did we miss on him? There's just players all over the world. You got international guys coming in. You got high school kids, post-grad, junior college. I like to think that I've seen everybody in the best of the best, but I truly haven't. And I think that's where the parity is, man. There's a lot of good basketball players, and I think it's fun. And I think it's a challenge every night. And this league has always been competitive, man. Whether it's teams with rich traditions in history to, just improving and getting better every day. And Fordham has a terrific history, and we're going into a gym that's not the largest, but it'll feel like 15,000 are at that game because they're going to be right on top of us, and they're loud, and it's a fun place to play. So we just have to embrace the environment. But overall, the A-10, man, from the parity, I just think we just play a good brand of basketball. I think we got 6 teams in the top 100, I believe, somewhat. Maybe my number's wrong, I'm not sure, but I mean, that's just signs of a good conference.
Awesome.